Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to episode 131 of Songs of Selah here on 17 Numa Radio. Thank you for tuning in this evening. I'm your host, Scott Thomas Outler, and it is Monday, January 25th, 2021. Coming up in the next segment, I'll be joined by tonight's guest, Carol Welter. Carol is a wonderful poet, playwright, stage director, and host of the UUCA Wine, Cheese, and Spoken Word event, among her many other talents. And she'll be returning to the show to talk about some of the exciting projects she's been involved with of late. Stay tuned for a conversation with Carol Welter about her life and writing coming up in just a bit. And in the meantime, please be sure to subscribe to the channel while you're listening here on 17 Numa Radio. A reminder that all past episodes of Songs of Selah can be found in the archive at 17numa.com. Thank you to everyone who supports the show by spreading the word and sharing episode links with your friends. Your support is always greatly appreciated. What would my guardian angel say? What would Jesus Christ and Buddha and Brahman and Yahweh and Allah and Lao Tzu and Elohim and Isis and Artemis and Abraham and Horus and Bacchus and Mother Mary and Tetragrammaton and Matthew and Mark and John and Luke and Loki and Persephone and Sophia and Selena and Shiva and Apollo and Calliope and Aphrodite and Magdalena and Quetzalcoatl and Numa Pompilius and Marcus Aurelius and Hermes Trismegistus and Moses and Ozymandias and Nefertiti and Akhenaten and Cleopatra and Odin and Oberon and all the other high and mighty holy spirits have to say? Honestly, I don't know, and I can live with that. The process of releasing from the illusory expectations of a worldly culture that has fallen astray, and flowing instead into a more focused perception of actual responsibilities that, when seen too clearly and faithfully carried out, allow alignment with a more tangible and higher source of accomplishment. There is more truth expressed in the songs of birds on an overcast morning than there is in the political machinations of troubled souls who seek to impose their warped neuroses on the rest of us. So I would listen attentively to nature's symphony and shake my cloak whenever deceivers start clucking their tongues with a balkanized babbling. There is more wisdom bequeathed from the oaks and pine trees than ever will be gained by blindly following the path of a ruling elite whose intentions are set against the good of society and sovereignty. So I would wind my way through the forest underneath its protective canopy and remove all persuasion of the parasite's poisonous sway. Thus concludes the soapbox portion of this production. I'd like to take a moment and say thank you to Strider Marcus Jones of Lothlorien Poetry Journal for publishing 3 of my poems at his new venue yesterday. Links to all of my publications from January, along with updates about current and future projects, can be found at my website, 17numa.com. I encourage anyone who would like to keep up with my work to subscribe to the website. As time goes on, I'll continue using social media less and less, and my energy will be focused primarily on keeping 17 Numa updated as a central hub. So please do check it out and keep in touch with me there. Submission guidelines for the 2021 Western Voices Special Edition of Setu Mag can also be found in a recent post at 17numa.com. I'm excited to be guest editing the anthology again for the third year now, and I look forward to reading through the poetry that gets sent our way. Thank you to Sunil Sharma and Anurag Sharma for the opportunity to work with Setu Mag, and thank you to everyone who has sent their work along so far. Last week on the show, I was happy to debut the first of 2 tracks that Elise Kaiser recently produced, using recordings of my poetry set to her original music. It was a fun collaboration to be a part of, and I thought I'd close out this opening segment tonight by playing the second of those tracks we worked on. So let's listen to Headlight Fever before heading into a music break, and then we'll return on the other side with tonight's guest, the wonderful Carol Welter. Stay tuned. I wasted all my venom too early. Now I'm a stuffed koala, bathing in the sun, baking eucalyptus, laughing at the world spin round and round. You told me every flashpoint needs flint to spark. Now my hair is on fire, rip off the covers, rest in the ash of your laurels, waiting for the lesson to burn at will. Back into stasis, both orbit and comfort, cradled with caution, soft dreams to explore. Last lines are ending, right when you enter. Sighs of exhaustion, western and sleep cold. Crystals have conscience, led deep in karma. Cast off torn ethos, shake cloak and cobweb. I promised all my sevens to the pattern. Now I'm caught in its prism, blink twice for fusion, spin in the grasp of spent coding, untangling. Live wires installed. You told me every dog still has its teeth from the hunt. Now I'm warm in the forest, fur wrapped with worn blankets, coiled through the night of rebellion, enticing compressed visions from stone.
face the quakes, the wind, the fire. I've conquered country, crown and throne. Why can't I cross this river? Pay no mind to the battles you've won. It'll take a lot more than rage and muscle. Open your heart and hand, my son, or you'll never make it over the river. It'll take a lot more than words and guns, a whole lot more than riches and muscle. The hands of the many must join as one, and together we'll cross the river. Take a lot more than words and guns, a whole lot more than riches and muscle. The hands of the many must join as one, and together we'll cross the river. Nature, nurture, heaven, take a lot more than words and guns. Down more falling by a whole lot more than riches and muscle. To conquer every mountain, the hands of the many must join as one, and together we'll cross the river. Raise the fight, take a lot more than words and guns. Raise the icy wind, a whole lot more than riches and muscle. Raise and peace among the hands of the many must join as one, and together we'll cross the river. And together we'll cross the river. And together we'll cross the river. Nature, nurture, heaven and throne. And together we'll cross the river. Nature, nurture, heaven and throne. And together we'll cross the river.
Welcome back to Songs of Selah. If there's anyone interested in appearing as a guest on a future episode, please feel free to contact me via email at 17numa@gmail.com, and I'd be more than happy to set you up for an episode coming up here in the new year. Tonight's guest, Carol Welter, is a lifelong learning student in the field of live theater, storytelling, and spoken word. Her classical theater training allows her to teach without abandoning various schools of interpretation, which include vocal development and stage posturing. Her curriculum includes the Alexander Technique, Shakespeare, and Greek theater. Her formal trainings were with the Shakespeare Conservatory, Watford School of Drama, Little Theater Masterclass with Louise Bennett, and she is currently in a theater program at Clayton State University. Carol also hosts a monthly weekend event which showcases singers, dancers, and performers. Twice yearly, she is responsible for directing an original stage play, and she holds a seat on the Performance Arts Committee with PACT of UUCA in Atlanta, Georgia. Thanks so much for coming back on the show tonight, Carol. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, Scott. How are you?
Doing just fine. Enjoying the evening here, and always a pleasure to talk with you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we have so much to be thankful for. We made it to 2021.
Yeah, and who can believe it? We're almost a full month through it already, just flying by.
Yes.
So last time I spoke with you, you were very busy here at the beginning of the year with your hands in a lot of different projects. So I'm hoping that we can dive in and talk about a few of those here tonight. I know maybe a good place to start would be some of the plays that you've been working on recently. Can you talk about how those projects came about and where you're at in the process with them?
Yes, so toward the end of last year, every year Clayton State puts on two productions each year. And their spring production, they normally do a full-fledged stage play where an audience, of course, can come in and view the play for, like 4 performances. But because of the pandemic, they're using a different type of expression this year. And they have created what's called a theater festival, which will address areas of EDI, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And the directors have also included metamorphosis. And they asked several playwrights in the community, of which I was one, to write a few 10-minute plays. So they actually only asked for 2. But I ended up having 3 plays submitted. The one on metamorphosis definitely addressed my experience as a gardener, planting a seed, having that seed become a flower. And it's all done through the expression of dance as the seed is planted and watered and grows and then reseeds itself. And birds carry it across the ocean to different parts of the world where the seed goes through a dormant period. You would look at it and say, this thing is dead. It's no different from a stone without having water, without having the earth, without having sunlight. And then somebody finds it and plants it, and it becomes a beautiful sunflower. So that sunflower, that's the one on metamorphosis. And then my play on inclusion is about 2 friends, and one friend becomes something else at night, something less than human, and wants to know if he could be included in the world, if he could be accepted. There's so much talk in terms of diversity and in terms of accepting different people, but what about other? So he is definitely other, and that's the name of the play. And then my third play is a race of artificial intelligence that is created by these brilliant scientists, and then it addresses the rights of artificial intelligence. Yeah.
That third play you were talking about there, you sent me to read recently, and now that you're talking about the 2 themes, one of them being metamorphosis, I would say that third play also falls into that category, sort of the transcendent futurist type of expansion. Talks about the scientific community and technology community. Where did your interest in that sort of subject matter, science fiction type of energy to it come from?
Well, it's interesting because I told you that I've been writing a novel since 2017, which is kind of futuristic. So I lifted a lot of the ideas out of that. But given what we have all been through in the year 2020, I also saw what the need for power and control does to people, and how it can cause us to act in an insensitive and a dynamic way to control other people. And these women in the scientific community who's brilliant, and they created this artificial intelligence, of which there were hundreds when you go into the play. And they just needed to be activated by solar power. But here are these hundreds of beings of advanced intelligence that can do the bidding of an advanced human race, which I've made up a fictional race called the Tava people. 100 years in the future, human beings are now called the Tava. And these three women of advanced intelligence have created artificial intelligence, but they also have latched onto the power to control. Forgetting hundreds of years before in our history, the power to control created slaves, created dominance in world leaders like Hitler and Mao and Idi Amin and all of the world powers that we have had that have tried to control groups of people to do their bidding. And so that's how that evolved.
Absolutely. I really like that piece. Certainly a cautionary tale and apropos for the society that we live in these days with vast systems of control lurking over us all the time with the technology that we deal with, the social media platforms, and all of these forces that we have to keep on the level path as we go forward, so these lessons don't keep being repeated over and over.
Yeah, it's so important for us to keep ourselves as individuals and as a developed race in check. One of the lines is in the play is that we cannot know our future unless we know our past. And if we look at how we have evolved on the world stage in terms of what has advanced wealth, what has advanced power, and it's often by keeping one segment of society under control. To keep them, we don't like to use the word enslaved, but that's basically what it is. And this is what happened to this AI, these hundreds of nanorobots, these hundreds of humanoids became the slaves of an advanced human race. And that's what AM is about. It's AM, A-M-N, A-M-N, which is coming from an Egyptian god or goddess of the underworld. Yeah. I won't give the whole thing away. Later on in the year, you can definitely show the link how people can access the play and how they can see the performances at Clayton State.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be glad to do that and looking forward to seeing them myself. Is there a time frame on how those are going to come along? And I know that you're going to have to be giving up your directorial process in this. How does that feel, turning your works over to someone else and seeing how their vision is going to come through?
Oh, gosh. I have never had anybody direct anything that I have written. Everything that I have written, I've directed. So this is a very, very humbling thing for me to be able to give over 3 of my plays, which are so new to me, to a director. But what an amazing director we have in Professor Chantel Thrash. I'm just in awe of her learning and her skill. And I'm also working with the professional acting team and to see how they interpret my work. It's such a great honor. And, I have the opportunity to kind of watch some of the rehearsals as well. So this is a learning process for me. What I love about Professor Thrash's directing is that she's intuitive and she's compassionate, and she allows the actor to climb into the mind of the character and develop sympathy and to be able to relate to the character. And so when that character is played out on stage, it is so believable. And the audience is drawn into that. And that's what I'm looking for, because I hope to be a director like her.
Absolutely great to have that collaborative process where she's bringing out the best in everyone, and she's got some great imagery to work with and storytelling from what you've put together, so that'll be exciting, I'm sure, to see that come to fruition. Speaking of Clayton State University there, you just started some new classes in theater history. Do you want to talk a little bit about that path you're going down?
Yes, I'm very excited about the theater history class that I'm taking. I was hoping to register for creative writing that would help me in my novel writing and help me advance a little bit more my playwriting. I did take a playwriting class last year, but I wanted to layer that with creative writing, and that just didn't happen for me. But what's lovely with taking theater history under Professor Van Meter, we just finished studying Aristotle's Poetics, which definitely takes you on that arc and how to develop a play and how to captivate the characters and how to draw in the audience. And so studying the Poetics, that was just wonderful. We've been through the first 2 weeks of studying the Poetics. And we're studying Euripides' Medea, and we'll be studying many of the Greek plays, which deal with a lot of issues of war and of women and what women went through during that time. And so, I will be doing commentary on 10 different plays, as well as doing research on one play, which I'm not too sure what it will be yet, but it could be, you mentioned earlier, like a passion play. And I think that would definitely be a part of the genre that I would like to explore and I would like to go down. It's nice to be able to look at the works of these great Greeks and from a more mature perspective. And these were just amazing human beings, and we have so much to learn from them.
Speaking of learning, since I've known you, you've always seemed to be the type of person who's constantly branching off into new territories and going after further knowledge. Can you talk about where that drive inside you comes from and what keeps you motivated to keep seeking out new ideas and new knowledge as life goes on?
One of the things, as we grow older, not everybody, but many of us, we begin to lose memory. We begin to lose pockets of time. And that's definitely something that runs in my family. What helps is learning new information. And I had forgotten so much of when I was in theater school in the 70s, when I was studying classical theater in England growing up. And now just sitting as a student in the classroom, so much of this is coming back to me, and I'm able to look at it from a more mature perspective. And as as when I say you, I mean anyone is learning new information. It could be a dance step, and that's one of the classes I'm taking this year. I'm taking dance. It gets into our dendrites. It gets into our brain. It stimulates our thinking. And not only that, waking up to a learning platform gives hope. It gives hope for the future. It gives me a reason to wake up in the morning. I have a class to go to. I have a paper to write. I have a presentation to give. I have students to mentor. I have a reason for being. And that is so empowering for me. So, I just don't ever want to ever stop learning. It's keeping me going. Along with diet and exercise, I try and walk 2 or 3 miles every day. I read a book every week, and I'm just stimulating my brain and keeping myself going. For all of the crap that we went through last year, I read 15 books. I just kept on reading. And it wasn't just reading, it was also having retention and being able to talk about what I've read and being able to do critical analysis on it. What a blessing. What a blessing. Yeah, the neurologists and the researchers and people that are doing Alzheimer's research, and they keep you going with new information. And, if you don't know how to ride a bicycle, learn how to ride a bicycle. If you don't know how to swim, learn how to swim. I taught myself the electric slide, which I never knew how to do on YouTube.
Uh-huh. I absolutely love the enthusiasm you have for that constant journey and that seeking, and I hope everyone listening to what you just said catches that same enthusiasm, and especially the technical aspect that you get into about just the fact that you're creating these new neurons every day and creating this new circuitry, and that builds upon itself, and then just fall in love with the process, as it sounds like you've done, and staying busy with all these projects you have your hands in, and you'll certainly be writing those papers, it sounds like, with the class you're taking. So, oh
my God! I just have to, and there's so much with isolation, with not being able to call somebody and have them in your house. I didn't know how to do an online presentation. I didn't know how to do a PowerPoint, but we have YouTube University. We have Google. And I had to go and Google this and go to YouTube University. Damn, if I can go to Google and say, let me learn how to do the electric slide, and I'm going to the left, to the back, and turn and so on. And I'm going on with the video several times, and I'm doing the dance, and I've got my foot going up, and I've got going back, and I'm doing it, I said, hell, I can learn how to do a PowerPoint on YouTube as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It really is all there at the touch of a fingertip, and just a little ingenuity and elbow grease put into the work, and it's just anything that our dreams could imagine. And I guess that's the positive aspect of what we were talking about earlier, the systems of control, but it's also provided that opportunity to have instant access to so much information. So, like all tools, it's how we use it, and you're certainly putting it to the best possible use.
Yeah, the other thing is, Scott, is gratitude. It's so easy to be bitter with everything that has happened, with the pandemic, with everything that has happened, with people dying, with the news. But we have things to be grateful for. Right now I'm sitting and I'm looking at a fruit bowl, and I have fresh ginger and elephant garlic and sweet potatoes and lemons. It would make a beautiful still life painting or sketch. But this is food on my kitchen counter. That's something to be grateful for. I'm talking to you on a radio program. That's something to be grateful for. I have a voice. You know, I'm 66 years old next birthday, but I have a voice. That's something to be grateful for. I have friends. I have a mother who just had her 91st birthday. You know, all of these things, it's so easy to get down and depressed, and there's reason to be down and depressed, but there's reason to rejoice. My brother in New York couldn't get his particular type of bread because there was a shortage of bread, and he remembered that when he was younger, I used to bake bread, and he said, do you think you could pull up some of those recipes? I hadn't baked bread in years, but I dug into my 3x5 cards, and I went and I found a whole grain bread recipe, and I practiced, and I taught him how to bake bread. And he taught me how to grow orchids via Zoom. And so we have established forums during the pandemic with my siblings and with friends and so on, where we've reached out to different people that we otherwise probably would only hear from them at Christmas. You know, so there's so much gratitude. To embrace gratitude is centering. It's, you know, it is just wonderful when we can just look around a room or out in nature. It's more than three things every day. And that's what keeps me going.
Absolutely, so well said. And just looking up at that moon shining up in the sky earlier tonight is something to be appreciative of. And staying in that mentality of gratefulness and that consciousness, what sort of spiritual aspects do you put into your life? You talked a little bit about walking 2 or 3 miles every day. Is there any sort of meditation practice that you have to help maintain that balance you're talking about?
Yes, meditation has been something that I've definitely embraced during the pandemic in a more intentional way. I recently got a little cat, you know, and when different things are introduced, you know, it kind of will upset your rhythm. I've had problems with my internet connection where I at one time had a 50-foot Ethernet cord, and I ended up moving my computer up to my bedroom. So sometimes it's just like something that will just trip me up, and it will throw me off by a few days. And, you know, I may find myself, quote unquote, falling off the wagon, eating too much, or, you know, not doing my ikebana in the morning and not doing my meditation because, okay, I've moved my room around, or now I have this little kitten. But it's being able to forgive myself and getting myself back on track. And sometimes I've had to do a guided meditation to get me back on track before I can go back to just my few moments of quiet in the morning and listening to my breath and sitting down. So I found the walking, the meditation, the gratitudes, trying to practice a good, healthy diet, all of those things in sync have really helped me keep my equilibrium. You know, when I've felt like hitting my head against the wall, just being able to come back to those moments of truth, the things that I know to be right. And I haven't been perfect every day, but I know what I need to do to form good habits and that helps.
Having that foundation to build off of is so helpful, and you certainly have all the bases covered there, the strong heart, strong mind, strong spirit, and strong body all wrapped together creates that sense of harmony. And when you do fall off, it makes it a little bit more simple to get back in tune with it, like you're talking about. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about with you here tonight, I read another of your pieces that you had sent recently, a vignette or a sketch about your father, and I wondered if you would like to share that piece tonight.
I will, and it's a fictitious piece about a West Indian dad, a West Indian countryman, and the way that they think and the way that they live, and they have kind of a deep-seated wisdom. My youngest son, Ricky, we went to a family gathering. This was probably 10 years ago, and his hair was very long. And my dad was there. My dad was alive at the time. And about 2 weeks later, after we came from the family gathering, he had his hair trimmed up. And I said, "Hey, son, what's going on?" And he said, "Grandpa told me to cut my hair." He said, "Grandpa said that I looked untidy." And he didn't cut his hair all the way off, but he kind of just tidied it up a little bit, you know?
Uh-huh.
And he said, "This is in my DNA." And I've talked to a lot of different Jamaican dads and uncles and so on. And this little bit here, Farm Boy in Jamaica, is not so much about my dad. It's a fictitious piece, but it's about a West Indian uncle or dad or big old brother, you know, the crazy old man that we all have in our family. It's in Italian and German and English and American and, you know, Scottish and Irish societies. This man exists in every culture, and that's what this is about. So I will read it. Are we ready?
Absolutely.
Dad was born on a farm in Jamaica, foggy and cool in the mountains. He tells of waking up to crisp air in the clouds. Grandpa's farm in Jamaica was once a Scottish slave plantation, sugarcane in rows through craggy hills and valleys. Remnants of the great house lay in ruins on the hillside. Oh, yes. My dad said he sees her sometimes during those early, misty mornings, riding her dappled horse Palo through the rows of cane. He sees the poor black brutes bundling the cane as she whips them with her leather straps, laughing as she rides, loving the power of it. She is the White Witch, they call her, Annie Rose Palmer, long dead in 1847. Dad picks lemongrass in the thickets at night for hot tea at sunrise, drinking from the clay mug fashioned from silt that dwells in the gully by Ma Spud's yard. Raised on a farm in Jamaica, as a lad he is master of sneaking out unseen by Teacher Chippy of the one-room school, built down in an orange walk 3 furlongs from Deacon Mac's church, where sisters dance in the spirit and elders speak in tongues. Dad takes in the clear air, the expansive panorama, the Bullhead Mountains peeking up through the clouds, the mountain humps looking more like the breasts of that brown-skinned gal named Clara. Clara with her ample bosom and 3 freckles on her nose, still bearing the resemblance of her late Irish master, Massa McCandles, who bedded Grandmama in the Arawak Cave and the home of the Ratbats. The McCandles, but Dad called this Irish slave plantation owner the McAniddles. Yes, your old Gramps was so much more than a curious George, a smart aleck, a slick Willie. He knows about things. Telling his grandsons once on a moonlit night, "Boy, you see the cow doo-doo there? The angels come in the night and bless it. Yeah, man. The angels come in the night, I tell you, boy. You will see. You think this old man is any fool?" He loved the moonlit nights. Large banana trees created shadows in the walk. To my eyes, they were ghosts and goblins. To Dad, Duppy. Dad found the night palm duppy fruit firm and strong. Lord, if my manhood could stay so, laughing at himself. A randy, crazy, fun-loving bugger. He munches with pleasure that firm cooking banana, thinking of Clara with her D-sized cups, lying down on Bullhead Mountain under the mahogany tree. To this I say, good googly moodly, Dad. I remember his laugh in response, ay, ay, ay. And oh yes, on that night, an angel of the Lord appeared on wings of love, showered the cow doo-doo with velvety button heads, wearing pleated petticoats, hopping on one leg. Dad was raised on a farm in Jamaica. That night, camping out with the grandsons, regaled them with stories of talking birds and flying fish, all while cooking plantains in a kerosene pan, laden with handfuls of angel's mushrooms, mixed with wild thyme and sea salt. The boys said Gramps called these occasions cook-a-bush. To this day, the boys talk about that memorable night, eating mushroom stew, drinking coconut water, and making sweet love to who, the White Witch, or was it Clara, who came to their foggy bliss in the forest?
All right. So well done. You have such a great voice for storytelling, and you capture the energy in the scene so well in the way you read. I love it. What a great piece. He knows about things. It sort of captures the essence of it all.
Yeah. Definitely. My dad was a great teller of tall tales, as is my uncles. My uncles are too. And, I've heard stories, colorful stories like this all my life. My sister, Marcia, writes West Indian folklore, and she's captured a lot of these stories. And it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful legacy.
Absolutely, and you're certainly carrying it on well. Great piece. Do you have any other vignettes in that sort of series, or was that a one-off?
That one is kind of a one-off. I've written stories of my childhood, not so much the West Indian, because I didn't grow up in the West Indies. I grew up in England, so I do have stories, of England. But that was so great how the culture, and all of us are affected by our culture. People talk about the old country or back in the good old days or the old time, and we have that, and it's magical, isn't it?
Yeah, it is sort of the glue or the binding that holds us back to those past generations. It's necessary as a mooring for us to have those shared cultures and values. But I'm still taken by that. What a great reading. I appreciate you sharing that. And, so I guess we got a few more minutes left here. Do you want to talk a little bit about the wine, cheese, and spoken word event that you host? Is that on hiatus here during the pandemic?
That has not gone on because of COVID. What I've been doing, Scott, is just kind of hosting small groups in my garden. I have a big garden where we can safely meet, and meeting at some of the local parks when the weather has been nice, where we can people can kind of bring their stadium chairs or a blanket to sit on the grass, and people just get up and read and share, and have that sense of camaraderie. So, we haven't been able to meet, in a black box theater or meet the way that I was before through UUCA, but have definitely met on a more informal level. And if anybody's listening now and, they would like to contact you if they're interested in helping keep this torch burning, yeah, please. It would just be wonderful to be able to say, I'm interested, I have a poem to share, and, we could set up one day a month and continue on. It's been in drips and drabs just because of the pandemic, and people are being careful and cautious, and so they should. But it's the lovely thing with Georgia is that we have these gorgeous parks, and the weather will begin to get warmer, and we can meet with a mask, and hopefully we will have, a vaccine, and we can share our stories, and we can share our poetry again. And I don't even necessarily have to host it. I think it can evolve into just a company of readers and writers and people who want to share friendships and, within that genre.
What a fantastic idea and a way to adapt it during these times, which it sounds like you're doing in pretty much every aspect of your life, whether it comes through your relationships with family or the way that you're carrying on your studies now, and now with this event morphing into something else. Beautifully done. Well, here at the end, any final words you want to leave with everyone tonight about what you're hoping to do here in the rest of 2021?
Well, I would say, most everybody who's listening is interested in the arts, and don't give up. Don't give up. Change is the one constant, and we will find so many other creative ways. All is not lost. There is still hope. Let's band together. If we have to figuratively, virtually hold each other's hands and lift up each other's spirits, let's move forward. Let's carry the artistic torch and keep on keeping on.
All right, fantastic. And here to that. I love that enthusiasm that you have, that great affirmation for life. It's contagious for sure, and always a pleasure speaking with you, Carol. Thanks again for joining the show, and I'm excited about all the upcoming projects you have.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on the show. I think it was probably 2 years ago, and I was so honored to be invited again. And thank you for all that you're doing in keeping the torch burning.
I appreciate that. I'll speak to you soon, and have a great night ahead.
Thank you. Night.
All right. Thanks so much to Carol Welter for joining the show. And if you'd like to find out more about the projects and plays that she's working on and the rest of her work, visit carolwelterproductions.com, and you can find that link in the show description. So appreciate everyone listening tonight. Hope you enjoyed the interview and that great piece that Carol read. See you back here next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Until then, Selah.
Oh, my heart is so black. You find it insane to apologize for something like that. Won't revolve. appropriate. We know the guy that drew the map, but he's the graveyard away. He never wanted to stay. I was painted red. I never read the actual words and kind of faked it out again. You say they're cold, you know, shoes. Man, we all make mistakes, I swear to God.